and welcome to my channel where I make dishes inspired by some of my favorite video game characters. Today's dish is inspired by Xemnas from the Kingdom Hearts series. I think Xemnas is such a strong antagonist in the Kingdom Hearts series, and I don't know how to describe it other than he has massive aura. He has such a deep and commanding voice that somehow is full of life and authority, but also exudes despair and nothingness. His appearance is so fitting of his evil and honestly gothic beliefs, and he has so many cool stages of boss battles. All battles are incredibly fun with such absolutely amazing music to go along with it, and his different forms he takes on are varied and cool. I have never felt so gripped by a final battle as I have with Kingdom Hearts 2 for everything that has led up to the fight, the ambiance, the music, the circumstances. Everything is just so perfect, my child self was always in awe. There's so many iconic quotes spoken by Xemnas in his battles, and so many cool set pieces, like smashing through the buildings, flying through the sky towards Xemnas, endlessly dodging his attacks in the air, and of course, deflecting all of the laser beams coming towards you and Riku. I simultaneously have so much I could say about his fight, and feel speechless by it at the same time. I'm probably biased because Kingdom Hearts 2 was my first Kingdom Hearts game, and honestly what got me into video games in the first place, but Xemnas is my favorite villain of the series. Every moment when he's on screen, he has such an eerie presence that's fitting of the leader of Organization 13. Of course, his role takes a bit of a backseat in later games as Xehanort becomes the one to beat, but for some reason, every time he shows up, I'm still always like, it's Xemnas. He's also one of those villains that I like so much that I actually kind of feel bad defeating, even though, they're horrible people. Anyways, I will always have such a soft spot for Xemnas for being the villain from my favorite game of all time, and I'm sure it's all nostalgia, but I'm unsure if another Kingdom Hearts villain will ever be cooler to me than Xemnas. It took me a while to come up with a dish for Xemnas, but as soon as I did, it was one of those, this is kind of silly and stupid, but I can't make anything else now moments. I wanted to incorporate hearts in some way due to his desire for them, and I knew I wanted to make him something savory rather than sweet. I was thinking for a long time about making something with actual hearts, like beef hearts or artichoke hearts, but I couldn't narrow anything down. I was listening to some Xemnas quotes to get some inspiration, and I was reminded of his amazing quote, "Anger and hatred are supreme." And it was like, boom, heart-shaped supreme pizza. While it's a bit silly of a conclusion to come to, I honestly get the feeling that Xemnas would love pizza, and although he comes from nothingness, he is the opposite of picky and would love lots of toppings. Even more, pizza can easily be cut and sliced apart into 13 pieces of heart for a whole Xehanort. So, altogether, we're making this supreme heart-shaped pizza for Xemnas, and once he finishes eating it, he'll not only need more rage, but more slices. Here's what you'll need to make your own. For the crust and sauce, you'll need crushed tomatoes, tomato paste, granulated sugar, dried basil, oregano, garlic powder, salt, all-purpose flour, baking powder, water, corn syrup, preferably dark, and olive oil. Notice how this pizza's crust doesn't use yeast. While it won't be as bubbly and fluffy as a yeasted dough, it's a great version of crust that I like to whip out occasionally when I don't feel like waiting a couple hours for my dough to rise. Anyways, for the pizza toppings, you'll need Parmesan cheese, mozzarella cheese, pepperoni, a green bell pepper, a red onion, mushrooms, and black olives. To get started, if you have a pizza stone, place it into the oven to start heating and preheat the oven to 550 degrees Fahrenheit. Don't worry if your oven doesn't go quite that high. Just set your oven on the highest setting it can go and simply increase your pizza baking time later. We'll then quickly brown and cook some sausage for the pizza. Head to your stovetop with a medium skillet and start heating it on medium-high heat. Once the surface is warm, you'll toss in a pound of Italian sausage and start breaking it up and cooking it without any added oil. Stir occasionally as the sausage heats and cook until the sausage is nice and browned. If you have a significant amount of excess oil, go ahead and drain the sausage, but if not, just transfer all of the sausage onto a plate lined with paper towels. The paper towels will soak up some of the oil as the sausage starts to cool. You can then set the plate aside until topping the pizza later. And if you're my dog, you'll be really upset that you aren't a good enough boy for some sausage. From here, we'll make the sauce. In a medium bowl, you'll add 10 ounces of crushed tomatoes as well as 3 ounces of tomato paste, a tablespoon of granulated sugar, 1 teaspoon of dried basil, a half teaspoon of dried oregano, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, and 1 teaspoon of salt. Mix all of the ingredients together until they are well combined and again set aside. It's a good time now to prepare and cut the rest of our toppings for the pizza. Just a side note, you'll have likely noticed with the sausage and now the veggie toppings that you're going to have quite a bit of leftover toppings. Feel free to save any of these leftover toppings for a pizza on a later day, or even throw all of the ingredients into an omelet for breakfast or lunch. Either way, to prep the rest of the toppings, we'll wash and slice a green bell pepper, peel and slice a red onion, slice some white mushrooms, and drain and slice some black olives. As you slice, add your chopped toppings to a bowl or plate for easy assembly later. Once all of your toppings are prepped, we can start making the pizza dough. In a separate medium bowl, you'll add in 2 cups and 2 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. You'll also add in 1 teaspoon of baking powder and a half teaspoon of salt. Quickly whisk everything up so it's evenly distributed, and then grab a separate small bowl. In this small bowl, you'll add a half cup and 2 tablespoons of water, 2 teaspoons of corn syrup, and 2 teaspoons of olive oil. You'll whisk these liquids together so they're more incorporated, but they won't fully combine. Once they're sufficiently mixed, you'll pour the liquids into your bowl of flour and gently mix and knead with your hands to bring it together. Now, I have no idea what happened on the day I filmed this, but usually this ratio of dry to wet ingredients works out just fine for me, but on this day, the dough was really wet. I quadruple checked, I measured everything correctly, so I don't know if it was the weather or something, but either way, if you have the same problem as me, all you have to do is add in flour, about a spoon at a time, and mix again until the dough starts to finally come together more and start to slightly unstick from your hands in the bowl. When the dough is more workable and ready to be rolled out, split the dough into 2, just like you're separating a human into a heartless and a nobody. You'll then use a rolling pin to roll it out. This pizza will be pretty thin, and you should shoot for a pizza that's about 12 inches in diameter. And while it's best to shoot for a circle-ish shape, if you're like me, it won't be. That's totally fine though, because ultimately we're shaping it into a heart. If you do make a circle, it's easy to just drag downwards on one end and pinch the opposite end to form that heart, but you may have to freehand it a bit like me. When you heart the way it's shaped, you can transfer the dough to a pizza peel. Cover the peel in a generous amount of cornmeal or flour, and then carefully move the dough on top. Make sure to do a test wiggle to make sure that the dough is able to move pretty freely, and if it can, we can start assembling. Grab your bowl of sauce and spread about half of it on each pizza, but of course, eyeball this amount. Again, you may have a little bit left over. Spread the sauce in an even layer, then sprinkle a thin layer of Parmesan cheese on top. After the layer of Parmesan, you'll add a more substantial cheese layer of mozzarella cheese. Next, add some pepperoni, then your sausage, red onion, green bell pepper, mushrooms, and lastly your black olives. Right before we start baking the pizzas, add a sprinkle of dried basil, dried oregano, and salt to the top of your pizzas. Then go ahead and slide them carefully into the oven and onto your pizza peels. The baking time will vary depending on the size of your pizza, amount of toppings, and heat of your oven, but the pizza will generally take around 8 to 15 minutes to turn into a beautiful and crisp crust with nicely melted cheese. You can then remove the pizza from the oven and allow it to cool slightly before slicing and enjoying. I love pizza in pretty much every form, but I love pizza shaped like a heart. In this recipe, everything comes together so quickly without any yeast activation time, and the outcome is still so amazing. The crust is almost like a bready cracker with some great bite to it, and the sauce is flavorful and tangy. The cheese melts so perfectly over the crust and sauce and under the toppings, and each topping not only adds some variety and texture, but also some new freshness and flavor. It's truly pretty hard to stop yourself from taking another bite and another and another and another. Crumbs. They're all that's left. Or maybe they're all there ever was. This pizza would be the heart that Xemnas was always yearning for and would make him feel whole, like a true person. I imagine that Xemnas is such a strong and powerful leader that even though he's so busy scheming evil things, he is still miraculously good in the kitchen without even trying to be. Every now and then, when he was feeling particularly nice, he'd spend an evening making this pizza for himself and the other members in the hopes of winning them over to keep mindlessly doing his bidding. He'd, of course, take no customization orders from any of the organization members. Vexen would request some anchovies, and Xemnas would say no. Ceyx would know not to even ask for toppings of his choice, since he knew going against Xemnas' desires was futile. And Demyx would slump over in sadness when Xemnas would just ignore his request for pineapple. He knows that he is a nobody and is made from darkness and nothingness, and he knows that his only purpose is to carry out Xehanort's will. But he couldn't help but admit that taking a bite of a slice of this pizza would fill him with emotions that he thought nobodies weren't supposed to have. The recipe card is in the video description if you'd like a more quick and concise version to give it a try. Like if you want a bite, subscribe for more geeky treats, and comment what foods Xemnas reminds you of. Thanks for following along.